Everyone, and today we're going to talk about a very important topic, felt needs and heart needs of a student. And I still remember years ago when I first became a Christian, I was not very interested in Bible studies because a lot of times I found that our Bible study teachers were just talking about the Bible and in the 2000 something years ago, things that totally unrelated to us. And I felt that it was so boring and the Bible has nothing to do with my lives. And not until I actually joined a group called Bible Study Fellowship, and the teacher was so different. So I still remember whenever she starts, she always have a question for us. And that question's always relevant to our needs and our struggles in our lives. So today I want to show you all how can we understand the needs of the students so that, whatever we're teaching will become relevant to their lives. Now look at this graph here. You probably remember this. We've been talking about this graph of being a creative Bible teacher. We have to understand like the graph from the left. You remember what was it? Yes, the graph on the left is the biblical world. So it's then and there. So we talk about Moses' time and David's time. You're probably thinking, what about what kind of needs that they had would be relevant to us? I think in the humankind, even though we have the geographic differences and cultural differences and the time difference, but what we struggle as a human, it would be something that we can draw from, like the Moses, his humility, David, his guilt of being a sinful person, and all this thing, or even Thomas, right? He's doubtful about Jesus, and all this thing we still struggle today. So as a Bible teacher, how is that going to bring those needs from the struggles in the Bible time to our present world? So remember, on this side is the student's world. So how can we bridge it back to a student world so that biblical truths that was true then can still be true at this present day and age? So we are talking about 5 different ways that we can help to bridge this gap. Now, the first one is studying. So in the past few weeks, we've been talking about Bible study methods, about studying the scriptures, using Bible study method, inductive Bible study method, observation, interpretation, application. And you also have to come up with a big idea of the passage so that your student can go away with a big idea in the mind of what you're trying to communicate. And in the same way, we're also not only studying the scripture, but we also have to study our audience, which is studying the needs of a student. So today we'll be focusing on studying and focusing on that needs. What is that needs? What are the heart need and felt needs of a student that we can focus on? And how can we make the biblical truths relevant to their lives? And in the following weeks, we'll talk about structuring, teaching, the way we teach, the method, and the evaluation. So today we're going to be focusing on heart need and felt needs. Now, I want to give you an analogy. My background was actually in marketing. So a lot of times when I teach, actually, I think like a marketing person. When I was trained as a, marketing in the business world, we often ask this question as marketer: what are the target market needs? This is a very important question because otherwise you cannot sell the product to the audience, to your target market. So I want to give you an example here is a lipstick, and something that I actually personally use. The reason why I think the marketer or the product who created this is super smart, because one of the women's needs would be after you eat, the lipstick will be all gone. So it would be very magical, very helpful for women to have a lipstick that can stay on forever, even after you finish eating. So this is one of those products that is super amazing. It's like an ink. So basically you apply this product on and then it lasts for 8 hours. Now I want to say, before they design this product, they have to understand the needs of the woman. In the same way, we plan a lesson, when we prepare a Bible study, what kind of needs that our students are struggling with. So in the same way, we would ask the same question: what are the life stage, the different life stage that have different challenges? Like for a new mom, for example, she's super tired and exhausted, right? So what kind of encouragement can give a super tired mom that hardly can stay awake? And what are some of the things that we can help her, encourage her with that needs and struggle that in mind? And other thing that a marketer would ask is ask a customer what they like about your product, or what do they least like about the products. And the product should fill that needs or meet that needs. So our teaching should be relevant to their struggles and needs at the same time. So I love this quote in your textbook in page 94. It talks about we must remember we teach people, not lesson. So we must begin with people. Now, sometimes we plan a well-crafted lesson and we forgot the people in mind. We were thinking about thinking about how to exegete text and then put the lesson plan together without asking the question, how is that even relevant to the people I'm teaching? So later on, we're going to give you more example on that. So, and sometimes I feel like in this class, it's easy for us to have a lesson and then we forgot the people. When we start teaching, when you're doing your lab, it's easy for you to think that, oh, I must get through my lesson. But when in reality, oftentimes I want to tell you, people are more important than lessons. And there are times where you have to pause and kind of deroute your lesson a little bit because of the people's need and the spirit leading. So the next thing today, we're going to talk about audience analysis, real need and hard need, which is real need is the hard need, fail needs and hook needs. And later on in the following weeks, we'll talk about the hook, book, look, took. So the reason why we need to focus on the needs, because that will give us a good hook when we teach. So one of the things that will make it a good relevant teacher is knowing the students' needs. That is totally the big thing that we need. And because what happened is life-changing teachers teach people, not content, as we just talked about. We're teaching the people, not only lesson. When we plan the lesson, we have the people in our mind. Now, I want to show you this graph here. It's from one of your page, which I also download from the website. This is on your page 96 in your textbook. Okay, basically it's Maslow hierarchies of needs. Now, as you can see, we can go through this together. If you study psychology before in university, you probably come across this needs analysis before from Maslow. He's a humanist, and so his approach of things, basically he wasn't a believer. So his approach of things is slightly different, and he's looking at it from a humanist point of view, which means that he basically neglect the spiritual realm. But I think later on in his life, he has a new revelation, but he didn't have enough time to write that. So he, at the end of his life, he actually had acknowledged there might be a higher being to be able for us to be self-actualization, which is one of his. He didn't have time to continue to develop that. So basically, okay, let's go through it together. So the basic needs would be water, food, and then the next level would be safety. Those are the basic needs of human being. Now, by understanding needs are very important, I want us to step back a little bit because sometimes when we go to a place, or when we reach our audience, sometimes we think, oh, we just have to tell them all the spiritual things, and we totally ignore the basic needs. Now, let's say if you go to a village, people are hungry and have no water. Honestly, they really don't care about your Bible study until you meet those needs. And in the same way, when we have people coming into our church and they have different needs, and sometimes we wow, so super spiritual, right? We ignore all the human needs, and we have to take that into consideration, because without acknowledge those needs, people cannot focus on whatever you teach spiritually. I'm just thinking about like a mother who comes in, I talked to you about a very tired mother. When she comes to the church, honestly, she won't be able to focus unless you prepare someone to watch the babies or something, right? Help her with the children, then she can finally focus. Otherwise, how can she focus on whatever you're going to teach? It's impossible. And I'm forever grateful for the ministry that when I went in US, they always have that in mind, have all the childcare in mind for the moms that have this basic needs of someone taking care of the children, right? So when we do ministry, we're not just, thinking about, wow, the grand program or spiritual things, but what are some of the basic needs of our student we have to pay attention to. Even though when you come to our class, right now we're doing virtual, but I remember always Dr. Jeanette, when she comes into class, she always comes in early to make sure the air conditioning is okay, it's not too cold. The seating, can they see the screen? And she would come into class, make sure the basic environment is safe, is clean, and she would bring snack to make sure even though you guys didn't have breakfast, you will still have energy to move on. So the basic needs of a student is very important. We must address those needs. Now, the second level is the psychological needs, which is a sense of belongings, love, needs intimate relationship, esteem, like feeling accomplishment. Now, this category also very important in terms of ministry. Now, sometimes we complain people coming in, they just want to socialize. They just want to make friends. They have no interest in the spiritual things. Now, please wait a second, okay? I remember the times when I first became a Christian. I came to church not because I have spiritual interests, honestly. I just want to meet friends. And guess what? This is one of our needs as a human. We need to socialize. We need to have relationship with other human beings, right? So this needs, we cannot be so critical about someone who comes to church having those needs. And I think for me, it's a journey, it's a Christian journey, the maturity of someone going out after that needs is being satisfied, and they can grow the journey to continue to be mature, to understand that, God ultimately is the most important relationship we need the most. But this is something that all of us have to pay attention, because when we do ministry, it's easy for us to criticize someone, their intention. But you know what? It's normal for someone to go through a different stage of their maturity in order for them to understand ultimately is the spiritual needs that they need the most, not so much about the human needs, but it's a journey. So we must be patient. And when we design program like this, we have the basic needs covered, we have the psychological needs covered. Then we can tell them what the Bible, what kind of truth we want them to learn in the Bible. So at the top here, we have self-actualization, basically meaning someone that is feeling self-fulfilled and meaningful creativities can fulfill someone's purpose. And that is the ultimate goal for all of us when we do ministry, when we teach the Bible. Now, another thing that I've told you about Maslow in his later age. So he finally realized there's a transcendence. That's ultimately what a person can really self-actualization is, maybe a intervention from a spiritual well-being, is a higher being that can intervene into a person's life, that he or she can have the self-actualization. Another diagram that you have in your textbook is another theory. Basically, Hertzberg basically has similar idea, but he just simplified it. So he do the social safety and the physiological categorized in just one lump sum, which is the hygiene factors. And then esteem and self actualization, he did it, categorize it as a motivators. So basically they talk about pretty much the same thing, but he just simplified it a little bit.